Welcome to the Rich Mind Podcast.
So when I was trying to figure out and join the entrepreneurial world, right, I was trying to figure out where could I cut and eliminate expenses, right? So that's where, when I first got started, I was like, I needed to trim it back as far as I possibly could. So that way, whether I was successful or not, right? I mean, that's the beauty or maybe the scary part about entrepreneurship is you don't know if you're going to be successful or not. You don't really know. But I did know that I needed to reduce my expenses a ton. And so I had the idea, this was probably been close to 10 years ago, about health insurance. Do I need this huge bill? I mean, it's a lot, and I don't even know what it is today. You can probably fill me in as we get a little bit further into the conversation. I don't even know what health insurance costs these days because I literally don't have health insurance. I have life insurance. I have insurance on property and casualty and all that good stuff, right? I have different types of insurance, but I don't have life insurance for the everyday, going to the doctor, going to the dentist. And I'll tell you why in this conversation here today. This can be a lot of fun. Any thoughts right off the bat, Greg?
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting because I am on I don't want to say the other side. I definitely see both sides of the opinion, but my wife and I, we have health insurance. And yeah, I'm really kind of curious. I have a few thoughts on, your thinking, my thinking, and I can see
I can see it in your face already. You're like looking at me like what? What are you talking about? Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, but like everything on this podcast or a lot of things, there's pros and cons and do what's right for you and everything. And we'll kind of get into it. But yeah, this is going to be a unique conversation for sure. So looking forward to it.
Yes, unique. So that's first off, folks, this is not advice. I'm not telling you to go out and cancel anything. I'm not telling you should do anything. I'm just giving you some information, some things that I've done that I did some research for myself, right? I've used my family as a guinea pig. I don't have any children living in my home. Maybe that's another thing to say as well. I think I actually did this when my kids were a little bit older. They still lived at home. But anyways, just understand, this is not advice. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. You need to make sure you speak to reputable people, your doctors, all that kind of stuff. This is just an idea that I had, a conversation that when I discovered some of this, that I'm going to share with you today, it was a huge wake-up call to realizing that I didn't necessarily need to spend the hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, I think for some families, a month for something that I may or may not was going to use. So let me just start off with maybe that part first, is that's been the biggest takeaway for me, is that it's just math. It became math for me. That's how I try to make most of my decisions. It's just math. And so we're not, let me just say that too, we're not an unhealthy family, meaning we're not the family that goes to the doctor for illnesses, right? We're not prone to being ill. We're not prone to be hurt, all of those kinds of things. And we never have been. So that was part of it as well. But the idea of, I discovered that if you call, you can test me on this right now, but if you call, let's just say the dentist, and ask the dentist, how much is it for a visit? Just a regular checkup. We're not talking about cavities and all that stuff, but we're just talking about regular cleanup and visit. Ask them, what would you charge? What's the fee for someone with insurance and someone without insurance? We did that, and you'll be surprised if you do this for yourself. They will charge you, or they will not charge you as much as you think to not have insurance. They actually bill you more through the insurance. Now, you might not have to come out of pocket for that insurance, but you're paying for it by your monthly premiums or your weekly premiums or your whatever you're paying, right? So if you're paying hundreds of dollars a month to save on and I'm just using round numbers here, I have no idea what a visit would be. Let's say it's a $100 visit, and you spent $200 that month, that doesn't make any sense. It's just math. So if you took that $200 that you would spend, and whether you invested it, whether you saved it, I don't care what you do with it, it's yours. You get to keep it, and you get to do some things with it other than just it going into this supposed account that you may or may not were going to use. And so I did that with everything. I did that with the dentist. I called just the regular doctor's office if I had the sniffles, or if I felt like I was getting sick with the flu or whatever. So you've got these minute clinics all over, at least up here in Indiana, like CVS or wherever, and they'll charge you a flat fee. And the first question out of their mouth, at least it was whenever I go, is, do you have any insurance? And I would say no. And they would look at me like you're looking at me right now, Greg. It's like, really? I'm like, yeah, I don't. And they're like, okay, well then it's this amount. And I'm like, well, how much would it be if I had? And it would be a lot more, which is just insane. I'm going to pause there for a second. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it is interesting. Obviously, the insurance company, they play into this whole thing. But I guess we're kind of grown up with, the idea of you need insurance. What if something goes wrong? Because I've, in my days, I've broken some bones playing sports and everything. And I don't even know what that would look like if I didn't have insurance. Like I didn't do the math back in the day. So I literally have no idea, right? But yeah, I guess for me, it's more of kind of the story that I've been told that you need insurance. And I guess for us too, we have some medical issues, I have some like digestive issues. My wife's got some back issues. So for us, it kind of makes sense to have that security of the insurance, knowing that, we're only going to pay whatever our deductible is, and everything above that, we pay, I think, like 5 or 10%. But yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it. Like we said, pros and cons. And, if you don't want to have insurance and you don't really need it or use it the way you're doing it, it works for you and your family, then, totally cool. Then roll with it, Like
I said, it was something that I consider myself very contrarian. So this is going to sound, this whole episode, right? Even from the beginning up until now, right? I don't claim to think inside the box whatsoever. I'm always trying to push the envelope as far as thinking outside the box. Now, I probably don't even think as far out as some other folks, right? But I do, like I said, it's just math to me. It just made sense. Meaning, if I'm going to spend, for a family, spend hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars per month for the potential that person might get sick, or like you even said, a broken bone. I mean, I don't know. I never had that experience. I've never had those severe types of issues. But from my experience having conversations with different people, is that it won't be as much as you think. They've got different ways other than the medication that you might be taking. Obviously, you're going to be paying for the doctor's time, that type of thing. But once you get beyond the deductible, it's like that's even on top of that, right? So you're paying for this insurance, but you're usually paying thousands of dollars in the deductible on top of that as well. So that would be my encouragement, folks. Once again, this is not advice. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do, but just do the math. Pull out what you're paying. Look at your I would probably go back 2 or 3 years of how much you've used it and how much you've paid in versus gotten back in benefit, and then just make that decision. Whether or not you think you need it or don't need it, like you said, Greg, I think you've got a little bit pre-existing conditions, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way of putting it or not. So yeah, you need to take all that into account, but just making sure that you don't just willy-nilly just choose to do it. It's like you said this, right? It's like we're taught and fed to believe that's what we should do. We should go to work. We should get up every day, go to work to a place that we probably don't want to be at, for an employer that we don't want to work for, to make money that is being debased every day through inflation, to pay insurance to people for things that we may or may not want. It's like it's getting off that hamster wheel of thinking for yourself, being a little contrarian with your thoughts. You don't have to go to the extreme that I'm talking about here today, folks. But the idea is I just want to challenge you to think beyond what you've been taught. Think beyond what you currently believe to be true. I'm discovering all the time. A lot of the thoughts and things that I've been brought up to believe, they're not even close to being true. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Yeah. And one other thing I was going to say, in the entrepreneurial world, I know some people, they're kind of on your side of things, and they just believe in a self-insuring, right? And from my understanding, self-insuring basically means you have enough money, or you make enough money where you're not going to pay into the healthcare system like my wife and I do. So let's say, like an extreme example, let's say you're making $100,000 a month, right? So you're pulling in $0.2 million a year, right? If I was pulling in that kind of cash, I probably wouldn't care if I didn't have insurance, because nothing is really going to throw me off of that $100,000 a month besides, expenses or whatever. There's no medical treatment, aside, even like if you get cancer, God forbid. If you had that money coming in, or you had $5 million in the bank in cash, then yeah, you're basically self-insured. You can tell, the insurance companies, yeah, I don't need you guys. We're good. We'll go in and pay cash. God forbid anything, big or small happens. So that's another way that you could, look at insurance. And I know some entrepreneurs do that, the higher earning entrepreneurs. I have a buddy who kind of does that as well. He doesn't believe in insurance. He thinks insurance is, kind of a racket, and it's one of those things you pay for, but you hope you never use, which is true. And same thing with life insurance, but that's a whole nother story. I think there's a little bit more benefit there. But yeah, health insurance is, like you said earlier, it's individual. It depends on if you have health issues, if you're going to the doctor for preventative stuff, if you're not. So just kind of depends on where you fall on that camp as well.
And I'm not that 1.2 million guy. I'm not that 100,000 a month. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Yeah.
You and me both.
Yeah, not quite doing that well, but at the same time, yeah, I've done the math, and yeah, it just doesn't even quite just doesn't make sense to me up to this point. Now, in the future, right, I might be able to, or might think about doing some things. I don't know. I don't know if I will or not. Obviously I've had some good luck with it. Now, could my luck run out? Of course. As I mentioned, I've got different types of insurance for accidents, right? And maybe that's a discussion for another day. Like you said, that's a totally different category, right? Life insurance on your things, right? Your stuff, maybe an umbrella policy. Once again, maybe we can have that discussion in the future to talk about that, because I've got a lot of that just in case, right? If I get in an accident, or if I have an accident, or if somebody hits me and they're not insured, I have insurance to cover all of that. And that even has including some of the medical things that would be incurred, right? So that might be a concern, right? Well, if I get in an accident, who's going to pay for that? Well, I have insurance for that, but it's not through health insurance, if that makes any sense. So that's where it's, to me, I just look at it as two different categories, two different buckets, where I don't, like you said, I don't pay into the bucket of the to me, I look at it as day-to-day health things versus accidental things. To me, I look at those as two different ways, two different things.
So do you think you're going to change your views as you're getting older? Because obviously when you get older, we all kind of, I don't say break down, but we slow down and things go wrong, and it's just the way the human body is. And do you think that'll change in your elder years as you kind of, age gracefully? Or what are your thoughts on that kind of mindset?
I hope not. Meaning I don't think that I will. Meaning I'm trying to do every day. We've spoken in the last few episodes, right, about habits and that type of thing. I'm trying to, with my habits today, be almost like preventative to barring a catastrophe, right? Barring a fall, barring an accident or something like that, right? Something that's way outside my control. I'm trying to do through the things that I'm taking, right? So supplements, exercise, all the different things, right? I'm trying to take care of my health to the best of my ability. Now, will that be the end all be all to keep me safe and healthy moving forward into my elderly years? I don't know for sure. I also fall into the camp that the AI generation, right? The ability to have AI like specified, something that goes in or knows more about me than I know about myself, and they can tell me, okay, you're missing this, or whether it's a vitamin or a mineral or something like that, right? You need to do this specifically to do and cure this, whatever's going on in my body. I think that is going to come into play. And I also think that that's going to be privatized. I don't think that that's going to be, meaning I don't think that's the government, or it's going to be a like pool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to pay in to get that information. I think you're going to hire somebody that's going to have the ability to do that for you. So I would rather take that money that I'm putting into these accounts and put it towards that, put it towards the preventative, thinking long-term, thinking about the future. And then we'll see. Hopefully my kids will be well enough and able enough to take care of their mom and I when, we're not able to move anymore. We'll see.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the private side, because I think, I even know there's a lot of private companies that are doing, blood work and cancer tests and all these things that if you go to a normal doctor or a doctor that, is through regular insurance, they're not going to, some of them do blood tests, but from my understanding, they do a surface level blood test. Whereas if you pay, certain companies a little bit more or whatever, they'll dive a little bit deeper and figure out a lot more, but they'll just go deeper into those blood tests and everything. So I definitely agree with you. I think a lot of private companies are going to be coming on board with AI and testing. And so, yeah, I'm actually excited about that. I follow some of those companies and I've done some of those blood tests and everything. So I'm more on the preventative side, but I really like, diving into health and all that kind of stuff. That's more, where I live a little bit.
Yeah. So that would be my challenge for you even too, Greg, is to think about that, right? Do the math of, and make a couple phone calls to whether it's just a general doctor, or if it's even for your wife. You mentioned that she might have a back issue, right? Even just finding out what those visits costs without insurance, and see if that, and it's just math. Say it's even the same, like what you're paying in to save, if it's just the same and you just ended up paying it out of pocket when you needed it versus paying for it up front. Does that make sense even too?
Mm-hmm.
So once again, it's just a challenge. It's just a thought experiment. Just thinking through, is that expense worth it or not? And I'm not saying it is or it isn't. You need to make that decision for yourself, folks. I'm just saying that for me, where I was in my life, and that at that time, and even still to this day, it's not worth it. It's not worth it for me to figure that out, at least not at this point. So yeah, I'm trying to do as much preventative as I possibly can, keep moving, keep doing the things for myself. As I mentioned, maybe in the future, we'll get into some of the liability insurances that I have set in place to cover my assets and to cover against accidents, things that are outside of my control. But yeah, as far as health insurance, that's why I just wanted to dive into that today. Any other thoughts about that before we probably wrap this one up? That's really all I had. I just wanted to challenge folks to think about that, to think that, once again, everything that to go to work, to get up, go to school, to get grades, to go to a job, to retire at this supposed age of 65, to live this life in your heyday. And like I said, just challenge some of those thoughts. That's when I've done that for myself, is when I've had my biggest aha awakenings, right? To the point where I've been able to take control of my own life, my own day-to-day. I mean, I design my own days. I'm creative. I have fun. I do business with people that I want to do business with. I associate with people I want to associate with. And I have those choices because I've thought a little contrarian, like I'm trying to encourage you to do here today. So any more thoughts before we probably wrap this one up here today?
Yeah, I think the last thought I would say about just the health insurance thing is, and I've fallen into this as well, of it's kind of like that scare tactic of, well, if you don't have health insurance, kind of like what I'm talking about, right? Like, what if something happens in the future? So I think a lot of people, including myself, we have that insurance as like a safety blanket, or, just in case something does happen, I don't want a $10,000 bill or $100,000 or whatever that number is going to be. It's all in my head, right? I don't even know what that number is. You did the math. I didn't. But it's that, like, it's similar to like fear of missing out. If, I don't have insurance and something happens, maybe that's a little anxietal thinking, but I think that's the way a lot of people do think, including myself. And until I have that $100,000 coming in every month, it's going to be hard for me to make that jump, but that's just the story I'm telling myself. And it's the system that we have is working for us. Yours is working for you. So, do what works for you guys. Yep.
So that's a matter of just figuring out, like you said, whatever's going to work for you, whatever works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. But the whole point is that don't just be led down to believe certain things just because somebody from somewhere at some time told you that this is how it's got to be, because that, in my experience, that's not an accurate thought. So speaking of accurate thoughts, that leads us into talking about our next episode, man. We're going to dive deeper. A lot of times in the podcast, I'll talk about winning within. And if you win within, you can win without. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what does that mean? Win within to win without. Well, that's a little strange, isn't it? And yeah, it can be. But yeah, I want to go a little bit deeper and talk about what that means. Greg's have some questions for me, maybe dig it out even a little bit better for myself. I know I've tried to explain it a few times here on the podcast, but the dialogue back and forth, we're going to discuss what that winning within means and how you can improve upon your internal being that can then help you in your exterior world. It kind of goes along with this health insurance, right? If you start focusing on your internal challenges, your internal battles, you'll be surprised how quickly you can start seeing some physical changes in your life as well. So we appreciate your time and attention. This, like I said, this is a little bit of a controversial conversation here today. I know this is going to probably go against a lot of the folks that are listening to this today. Give us some feedback. Let me know. Let us know. If you think I'm stupid, fine. Tell me. I'd like to hear it, right? If you think I'm an idiot, okay, great. Let's hear that as well. If you think that maybe this is an idea that you want to investigate, let me hear that too. The point is that I just wanted to bring you some different ideas, some different concepts, some things that I've done in my own life that's made a positive impact that you might be able to take for yourself and try to implement some of these ideas and strategies into your own life and your own family's life to get some outcomes that you're looking for. That's kind of the whole idea, is be a participant in life versus just being a spectator, right? Just floating through life. I don't want that for you. I know Greg doesn't want that for you either. Get in the driver's seat. Make some decisions based on some research that you've done. Do the math. Maybe you can make some decisions for yourself that, who knows where that could lead you in the future. I know it's made a huge impact in my life, and it might be for yours as well. So we look forward to coming back to talking about winning within next time. Leave us some feedback. If you wouldn't mind sharing this with your family and friends, we'd greatly appreciate that. Leave us a review on the podcast platform of choice. You can catch us on YouTube, anywhere that you can find podcasts. You will find the Rich Mind Podcast, and we appreciate your time and attention. Let's go out there, focus on being great, have a fantastic day, and Greg and I will be back on the next episode here real soon. We'll talk then. Bye now.
Thank you for joining us today on the Rich Mind Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it with someone you know. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Rich Mind Podcast on your favorite platform and never miss an episode. Want to dive deeper into transforming your financial mindset? Visit our website to download your free 5-step guide titled From Dead-End Job to Entrepreneurial Freedom, designed to help you conquer your fears and start on your entrepreneurial path with confidence. One last thing. Don't ever forget that your mind is the first place where wealth is created. Keep dreaming big, take action, and together, let's build wealth, a legacy, and a life we love. Until next time.